Welcome to Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and today we have the privilege of being able to not only just have cheese, but we're also going to have some amazing charcuterie, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm going to turn it over to start us off with Jessica. She's going to introduce herself, and then Kevin. So Jessica.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Michael. As Michael said, my name is Jessica Little, and my husband and I own Sweetgrass Dairy. It's a creamery located in South Georgia. We're roughly maybe 40 minutes north of Tallahassee, Florida, so in the southwest part of the state. And like Michael said, Kevin and I have been able to do this presentation together several times, and there's something really special about, things that are made together in the same region. And we share a lot of the same philosophies, which I'm sure he will touch on more, in we are trying to make and highlight what this region can do so specially. We say with our cheeses, we would love for people to taste our cheese and say, oh my gosh, that is a creamery that is really trying to show off a taste of this region and utilizing what makes it so special. So we started at Sweetgrass Dairy almost 20 years ago, which is so crazy to imagine, by my parents, Al and Desiree Weiner. And they farmed conventionally in a freestall barn manner, which means that the cows were in barns and they're milked around the clock, because dairy farmers are paid on volume and not on quality. And so they were winning all these awards and producing really high quantities of milk, but they weren't really happy. It wasn't the best for the cows, it wasn't the best for lifestyle for them, and it wasn't the best for the earth. And so they started looking for a better way to farm, or something that was more compatible to this region. And the one thing that they really started thinking about is, we live in one of the very few regions in this country where we can grow grass 365 days a year. You need 50 degrees to grow grass, and our average annual temperature is 67. So we have the capability to get enough sunlight and enough heat to grow grass, and we have unlimited water. So we sit on top of the second largest aquifer in the nation. And so we are able to not only use this water to grow our grass, but to also keep our cows cool, because our biggest challenge is heat in the summer. We are so passionate about regenerative agriculture, and we really do believe, and the science is proving, that the way that we farm in this New Zealand rotational grazing style is taking carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it back into the soil, which will help reduce greenhouse effect and global warming in the long run. So we do truly believe that the way that we farm is making a difference for the earth. But even a good side effect of that is just the flavor of the milk. So when my parents switched over, my mom tasted this really great grassy, buttery, rich milk and thought, we have to show people, we have to share this flavor. And the creamery was born. So she started with this idea of utilizing some very old world inspired recipes with these new world flavors of just this South Georgia region. And I think it's so important to note that we could give our recipes to a creamery in Vermont or Wisconsin or California, and it would end up tasting very differently just by this raw material. So after a couple of years in existence, my husband and I, Jeremy, moved back. And Jeremy took over cheese making, and it was my job to sell it and tell the story. And Jeremy continues on this tradition, and he will say that my parents worked so hard at producing the highest quality milk that it's his job to just not mess it up. So he really does want that rich, flavorful, grass-based milk flavor to shine through with all of the cheeses. And we're really excited because as my parents are starting to talk about their succession plan and what's next, my brother is now the 5th generation dairy farmer, and will continue on this tradition of making really high quality milk. And we look forward to the future and continuing to tell the story of the importance of regenerative agriculture and humane animal husbandry and the impacts that it makes on this region and all the really wonderful things that come out of that. So I love doing this presentation with Kevin, and I learn something new every time. So I'm really excited to taste cheeses and charcuterie today.
And might I add that she does make some of the most incredibly unique cheese that I've had the opportunity to taste. And it's such a pleasure knowing that Jessica and Sweetgrass Dairy are in the same state and region as I am, and the Spotted Trotter. And it is such an incredible thing to have such a unique specimen of what cheese making can and should be in this country in our own backyard. My name is Kevin Ouzts. I am the owner and proprietor of the Spotted Trotter. Started in 2009, and we are a team of great culinarians, I'll say first. Charcutiers second. We got where we are by knowing great food and having an opportunity to work in one of the finest restaurants in the country and some of the great institutions in the country to help develop my palate. I come from a long line of wonderful cooks. I won't say chefs, but my mother was a fantastic culinarian. I learned how to cook at a very early age. She would have classic French dinner parties in the 70s, and working through that and understanding great food, I would say that I don't have great muscles, or I do have pretty good hair, but one of the things that brought me to where I am is my palate. So I will say that the good Lord blessed me with a good palate, and I moved on through that. Opening the Spotted Trotter in 2009 was a labor of love. Ultimately, we came in off the recession in 2008. It doesn't really speak to what's happening right now in coronavirus land, but we opened in 2008 and had the opportunity to work with customers at the farmers markets, and that's how we ultimately got started. Being able to be in front of a lot of customers and got to understand what they were interested in sort of led us down a path to start to create some of the recipes that you'll see today. We use all humanely sourced and pasture-raised meats. We've just struck a relationship with Hickory Nut Gap, based out of North Carolina, and we'll be solely and singularly using all of their pigs that they grow in about 28 different co-op farms out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. And we've been that way since we started. The ultimate goal was to always use humanely sourced and pastured meats, and have been able to do that. And it's such a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with these small farms and independent operators. Keeping our hands out of the commodity brokerage of fine foods is something that really ultimately makes the flavor of the meat come through. All the meat's humanely sourced and pastured. Like I said, we make all of our spice packs in-house by hand. We don't buy any pre-ground nonsense. Everything we do is we buy whole toasted and toasted spices. All the spices are made in-house, like I said. And we're known for what's known as New American charcuterie. So we utilize the terroir of the southeastern United States for a lot of the meats that we make. You recognize some of the classic old world salamis, but we do it and may utilize different techniques and styles to make the salami. And that really charges home what the direction of what our meats taste like. We utilize a lot of different cooking processes and utilize a number of different methods to make the salami, but ultimately we want to use ingredients from the terroir of the southeastern United States to celebrate the meats that we make. So we call that New American style, and it's something that we think that we hope you taste in the meats that we make. We use 100% organic garlic, real garlic, not garlic powder, in everything we do. We do our dead level best to put a lot of integrity in the meats that we create, and we hope that you taste that in some of the varieties that we taste today. With regard to where we are in Atlanta, we're based out of sort of a crosshair of the downtown mecca of where we are is, I would say, the eastern part of Atlanta, the culinary divide between some really great institutions and restaurants and some other wonderful distilleries and beer makers that are coming to the surface in Atlanta. We're on the corner of Moreland and Memorial, right off of I-20. And we just bought a new building recently in November, and we've been in that building since November and creating really beautiful stuff. Our production floor is up on the top floor, and our retail space and curing chamber is on the bottom floor. We are selling in about all 50 states at this point. We're distributed through 2 or 3 different distributors and increasingly trying to stay along the lines of independent retailers, a few of the big ones, and then we do our dead level best to try to operate in in-house with a lot of small cheese shops and charcuterie shops around the country. That is us. I got started as a culinarian at a little bit older in my career, and started working at some really great institutions in Atlanta. Went to go work at the French Laundry, came back, and ultimately opened in 2009. And we have hired nothing but chefs and ex-chefs that either owned their own institution or operated inside a kitchen. And you can taste that in the meats. A lot of the guys have really great palates, and you're eating salami and whole muscle varieties for charcuterie created by people that really know and understand flavor. And we hope that you get the opportunity to taste that.
You said that you use garlic in everything, like every one of your products has garlic. Are you sourcing that locally, or can we grow a lot of garlic around Atlanta?
We can grow a lot of garlic. Generally, we have a very short season. Typically, it's not grown locally. A lot of the garlic we get is from California. To buy in the quantities that we need, we source it from a rather large organic grower in California. But yeah, and I'd say that the items that do have garlic is probably about 90% of the products that we produce have garlic in them. Yeah.
So good. Well, that and remind me, one of my favorites is, I think it's so unique. I've never seen a salami like it before with the peanuts. Like that it's so Georgian.
Yep. So we have the Georgia-based products that we try to put out and instill the new American charcuterie, or things like the Southern Smashed. We pay a lot of tribute to the Noisette, which is a hazelnut salami that was created in France, I don't know, 600 years ago. But we smash it during fermentation, and it has a really cool shape. And that's the Southern Smashed Noisette. We also, as you know, do the black pepper sorghum.
My favorite.
We were able, Jessica and I actually just paired a really cool gift set for Williams-Sonoma. So if you have the opportunity, you should check it out. But it's a black pepper sorghum salami. It's got sorghum syrup. And thank you for asking about that, Jessica. It's got a really cool story to it. It was one of the happiest accidents that we ever had the opportunity to create. All salami has to have a certain amount of sugar. And creating that, we wanted to use a different sugar. So we decided to use sorghum syrup, which has a wonderful pH for making salami. And as the bacteria wakes up inside the meat, it has to have a sugar source. So we'd use sorghum syrup. The bacteria wakes up, it gobbles up the sugar, but leaves that beautiful sour from the sorghum, and creates just a really beautiful, sophisticated nose and delicious palate on the meat. So we've got that. We've got a salami de sud, which means salami of the South. It's got a little bit of toasted anise. It's got sorghum, and it's also got pecan in it. So it's got a little sweet nuttiness to it. Really delicious, very unique. But we're constantly trying to strive to create different cured items that showcase some of the South's bounty. We do a soy salami that's got some of the soy that's made in Kentucky. We're working on some other really fun stuff as well coming down the pike.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that I really appreciate and about Kevin and some of the things that Jeremy does in the cheese room is that I don't think that they take themselves too seriously, and that they really, both Jeremy and Kevin really love flavors, and they're very creative. So I think for us, one of the ways that I could explain is that Jeremy actually grew up in Toledo, Ohio. And so he's not from the South. And when he first moved down here and was making cheese, he was like, I want to do the best job of letting these flavors shine through. But he was afraid of making something that was like too Southern or something. And then finally, people had asked us for so long to make a pimento cheese. And he was like, well, if I'm going to make pimento, I want to make the best possible pimento that we can. And so using piquillo peppers from Spain and pimenton and really great French Dijon mustard, and really just making something that is so flavorful. And it's unlike the pimento cheese that I grew up at my grandmother's house after church on Sundays. It is something that is flavorful and Southern, but yet again, he's not taking himself too seriously in these flavors.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I have to say that the pimento cheese that Sweetgrass makes is probably one of our biggest sellers in our case. But we love the opportunity to taste something that is, it's bringing about some of that classic Southern heritage, but doing it in a way that really, it showcases us in a new light. And I think these Southern products, you know, I talk about flavors in the South. Food in the South generally, as long as I've been alive, it's like, I say it's like fashion in Florida. It takes a little while to get there. But the idea that wearing flip-flops out to dinner is something that you get to do in Florida. And you know, for what we speak of in the foodways and the food systems in Atlanta, and in Georgia as a whole, it's really fun to know that we've created something that's really delicate and really delicious, and something that, quite frankly, hasn't been done until, you know, we had the opportunity to get our hands on it. And so for us, you know, working with Jessica, we've just created something really delicious, and we didn't bring it on board yet, but for this actual tasting, but we created a salami with her Asher Blue, which is, the Asher Blue is actually on deck to taste today. But having the chance to work with those, you know, beautiful flavors within that cheese to create this salami was a real special salami, and it tastes absolutely incredible. But showcasing the South is something that I think we have the opportunity to do, and it's been a pleasure to work with Sweetgrass Dairy.
So Kevin, would you say that do you have a lot of people that want to come and, I mean, maybe not right now in COVID, but like want to come and tour your facility, and they're interested in getting into this, you know, meat processing business or charcuterie? Because I feel like, although in the South we don't have a lot of producers, there is a lot of interest. I mean, I would say that before, you know, COVID, we're giving tours to at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 people a year that are either dairy farmers or chefs that are looking at being cheesemakers. And it's really exciting to see this, you know, interest.
Yeah, it is. It is truly exciting. And, you know, there always is a concern of like, who's going to compete with you? And because there's few people that do it, the benefit of what we do, Jessica, and I think you could probably speak to this, is, and I use this phrase a lot, but there's a very high barrier of entry because of the USDA and the HACCP plans that you have to write. So reluctantly, we do, you know, we do have to be concerned with competition and who's going to come out and roll against you. But the idea that we have the chance and opportunity to share with a lot of culinarians and a lot of restaurants, that's been something that I love to do and love to talk about. And it is something very exciting. And I think, you know, right now we've got the COVID-19 goggles on, and so it's very hard to think about how it did happen and how it's going to happen moving forward. But before that, yes, to answer your question, in short, we do. And we have a lot of folks that are interested in coming to see it. And we're still getting, you know, we just opened in November with the new facility. We were operating in a very small, I think 3,000 square foot space. And it was way too small to do what we were doing. But now we have the opportunity to spread our wings a little bit, have folks come in and check it out. But yes, to answer your question, it is something that we are very excited to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's strength in numbers eventually. I mean, you look at Vermont and like the cheese culture there, there's so many people there. They have such a good network and resources for each other that, although we are in the South where we don't have a lot of competition, which is definitely a strength, but we also don't have a lot of camaraderie sometimes.
Yes.
I would love to be able to pick up the phone and say, oh my gosh, we're struggling with this. You know, it's a real thing. How are you handling it? And
that's a very, very, very good point. When we opened and we built this new cave that we're operating out of now, it was you're pulling a lot of the shortest straws when you're trying to find folks that knew how to, you know, put these rooms in and knew how to dial them in to make them work for you. And you know, Jessica will tell you probably better than anybody that the humidity is certainly a challenge. And I can't appreciate that conversation as to, you can't just pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm putting in a new door. How do I do that? And there are certainly ultimately a lot of things that we are in short supply of when it comes to resources to do what we do. But that can also work to our advantage. And I think that, you know, there's a happy medium that we both had to discover and have. Ultimately, making cheese and making salami, there are a lot of similarities in how we grow the bacteria and how we grow the rooms. And that's been something that I've certainly, Jessica can tell you, I've been a bit of an ask hole in that regard. So I think I've called her on a number of times to ask her questions that, you know, just with how things happen and who she's used and what sort of resources. But yeah, to answer that, it's a small group of people that are doing it. So I hope that we can lead the way and charge through, and maybe there'll be some folks that come in behind us that can help, we can help them in that regard.
Right. Good. Yeah, I don't know. I think, like you said, if we can get past this point and see what the future looks like, maybe more.
And for people like Michael to keep celebrating us, I can't thank him enough for having the opportunity, for having us here today. And thank you, Michael, for all you've done for building the industry, making it great, and to give folks the opportunity to taste our craft. Having people like Michael Landis in our corner has been something that we can absolutely all say has been a pleasure to work with.
Sure. Like just getting our stories out there and telling our stories. We live in these, at least for me, I live in this tiny little town, and you're in a meat cooler. Like, how else are we going to tell a story without people like Michael?
Yes, definitely. So thank you, Michael.
It's my pleasure. I love being able to spend some time with you guys. I miss you so much because we have been around, like I said, around the country. We've been to different places and worked and did presentations. The advantage that we have now is that in our previous presentations, we were limited to the size of the room, where now we have no limit to the number of people that we can reach, which is really nice now. So really celebrating that fact that we can let people know about what you do every day and some of the great products that you don't have to wait for something to get on a shelf, that you can order online. You can be able to enjoy things that may not be something that you've had an opportunity. And that's one of the things that I love about both of you, is that you have some unique products. And when Jessica sent the spreads and all the different cheeses that we went through, and your pimento spread, unfortunately, my wife ate both of them before I had much of a chance other than what we sampled. Because she's a Southern girl, so you passed the litmus test on that about being so good. And Kevin, when we were up in Atlanta with the 3 taverns and being able to do that beer event, that really bringing in some of the products there are really unique, and they pair up so well across the board. Both of you guys. And I'm really looking forward to tasting today.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Our first cheese that we're going to taste is Green Hill. This is our flagship cheese. It's our most popular, and it is the one that really kind of helped put us on the map. Jeremy wanted to make a cheese that showed off just that rich, buttery, grassy milk that we have at the farm. And Green Hill Dairy was the original dairy that my parents started when they left the conventional style and wanted to move over to the intensive grazing management farm. So it's still there, Green Hill Dairy. We're still sourcing milk. It's a closed herd. But he really wanted to make something that was really approachable. And as I talked about earlier, our biggest challenge is the heat. And so we will probably, I shouldn't say never say never. I said I would never move back to Thomasville, and here I am. But we probably won't ever make cheeses that we have to age for really long periods of time, like big 80-pound wheels of Swiss, or cheddars that have to age for more than a year, because it just costs so much money. We live on coastal sandy plain soils. We don't have caves. So we need to make cheeses that you don't have to age a long period of time. So hence we love soft ripened cheeses. It's good for this region. So Green Hill is double cream cow's milk. You can see it's really rich and fudgy. I love it so much because I think it hits a lot of different flavor profiles. So you get the sweetness from the cream, the higher butter fat. When you're making a double or triple cream cheese, you need to err on the side of a little bit of higher salty components, because if you don't have enough salt, sometimes it can be too bitter. So you definitely don't want too much bitterness in cheese. So you get sweet, you get salty, you get the bitterness from the Penicillium candidum here on the rind. There's this great umami, just savoriness to it. I just think that it's one of our most friendly in pairing, whether it's wines, beers, ciders, sparkling Chardonnays, and then just you know, on a cheese board. Really, really easy. So again, it is our most popular cheese, and it has a very special place in my heart because I think it will end up sending our children to college. It's our flagship. So Green Hill.
So we paired Green Hill with Finocchiona. Finocchiona is essentially the flagship Italian style. We like to impart like I said, we do a lot of new American charcuterie, but we also make a lot of the classic old world salamis as well. Finocchiona is one of my favorites. We champion this by having a lot of toasted fennel. Speak to what Finocchiona really is, and that is fennel salami. It is one of the three classics, I would say. Toscano, Finocchiona, and then Genoa are the three that I would say you see the most of in the United States. We like to add a little bit of toasted anise as well. It's got a little bit of white wine. And then with regard to the heat that you taste in there, we put a little Calabrian chili flake to offset some of the rich fattiness. And it just makes for a wonderfully beautiful, just very well-rounded salami. This is something that we started from the very beginning. We really learned about toasting and understanding the spices that were available in the United States. Obviously, fennel is not something you see a ton of outside of California. But when you smell it, you get the fennel on the nose. You see the toasted spices inside there, and you see sometimes you get a cross section of a whole toasted fennel seed in there as well. We had a little bit of a learning lesson when we first started doing Finocchiona. When we initially started, we only had 2 salamis that we were making, just simply because we were just getting built up. And we ordered fennel from a warehouse company out of, I think, Virginia, that had sent down some fennel seed that, quite frankly, was not up to par with our standards. And we didn't know that, because these fennel seeds has essentially been, this was years ago, this is about 9 years ago, had been warehoused in a space that had some bacteria issues. And so we had put these fennel seeds in our salami, and the bacteria ultimately was too much bad bacteria. And we had some large holes in the fennel, and we realized that wasn't the direction we wanted to take. So we have a direct relationship with all of our importers, bringing anything like fennel seed in. And we toast the spices to bring out the natural oils and the butteriness, and the fennel that we bring in now is of the finest quality that we can get our hands on. But this is a very aromatic, very just wonderful aroma. It's got a little bit of heat to it, and pairs quite lovely with this Green Hill, without a doubt. When I'm making a board at home, Green Hill is always on. It's one of my wife's favorites. I love it because of its richness, and it pairs wonderfully well with any salami that we really have. There's not anything that I think doesn't just knock it out of the park. So thanks to Jessica, Green Hill and the Finocchiona.
I love fennel, and I think that the fennel notes, I mean, just something having with that herbaceousness really just highlights the grassiness so much. It's easier, in my opinion, to pair like buttery kind of richness and flavors, but I think it's more bold to pair like something with fennel in there. So I think that's really fun.
Definitely. You know, they say you're looking for something that either complements or contrasts, and I think the contrasting nature of that acidity with the richness from the cheese is just hard to beat.
Delicious.
I'm with you. The coolness of the Green Hill on the heat, the spiciness is just amazing. It just really makes it a very favorable pairing where you want to have those two together. And of course, the Green Hill is just a magnificent, buttery, rich cheese, which I've always been amazed that when I teach bloomy rinds, one of the first things that we talk about is the smell of the rind. And when you have a double creme, typically you have a lot of earthiness, almost to the point of that it's been rolled in soil, and they can be so strong. But this one has the nose of a triple creme on its rind, and I really admire that. because when people are first trying a bloomy rind cheese, the thing that they don't want is to be smelling something that came right out of the ground versus a nice white button mushroom. And that's what this is. Butter, white button mushroom, and then paired up the fennel, which I've always been a huge fan of. You know, it just brings me back to black licorice as a kid and being able to have that wonderful flavor. And so that pairs up really well for me. And so what I was thinking about for pairing for beverage is I picked up the Cigar City Brewing Maduro Brown. And it's got so much maltiness, and you can see here that it looks more like a stout than a brown, but it's just got a nice richness that just encompasses the Green Hill. And then it's just almost over the top of just creamy maltiness. And that's where, you know, the salami comes in so perfectly with the flavors of the fennel and the spiciness and the fattiness. All those things work really well. Oh, nice.
I bet it's good with that Maduro.
All right.
Perfect.
So what would you guys pair with this if you were indulging in a beverage?
I love, I probably would do, since it's August and it's hot outside, I'm thinking of like Verdicchio or Vermentino from Italy and really play off some of that herbaceousness with a little bit of that slight like almond skin on the finish where it has that slight bitterness to cut through the acid, to cut through this cheese, and I would want to take another bite. So I think some white wine.
White wine would be delicious. Keeping in the summer and the heat of where we're at, I'm gonna go gin. I'm a cocktail guy, and I would say some of that juniper, just a nice crisp, ice cold, you know, some sort of gin cocktail would be pretty outstanding with the flavor of the creaminess and richness and that earthiness from the rind and that cheese, as well as some of the flavor and aroma of the fennel seed would pair just out of this world.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with both of those. The flavors of the gin, having the herb and the botanicals in there, I can really see how they would really bring up the flavors, especially in the bloomy rind and also in the charcuterie, because it's just they make it so easy to pair these up. You know, we're looking at people that now are not entertaining 20 or 30 people; they're entertaining 2 to 3 or 4. So you're able to build yourselves an amazing cheeseboard now with less expense, because you're only going to be serving a few people, so you can really go out and splurge. And this would be a great start of a cheeseboard.
There you go.
Agreed. And you don't have to share as much.
Exactly. That's the best part.
One slice pack will do for 2 people.
That's right. It's perfect. Perfect size.
Yep.
I love it. Yes. Well, I can definitely tell you, I think gin and tonic might be in my future this evening. The next cheese that we're going to do is named Griffin. And Griffin is what we like to say it's our newest cheese. We launched it at the end of 2017. And it was a long time in the making. We wanted to make a cheese that had a little bit more of a cheddar-like texture, but we wanted to also do something in the production process that would really highlight, again, play up that grassy, earthy, mushroomy flavor profile. So for one of Jeremy's fraternity brothers, he was getting married and Jeremy wanted to make him a special cheese. So he started with the base of a tome style recipe. Our second most popular cheese is called Thomasville Tome. And he started with that base, and then he manipulated change the cultures a little bit to build the acidity a little bit quicker in the acidification curve. And then cut the curds a lot smaller. So he's trying to drain it a lot more. The Griffin is an uncooked, it's an uncooked cheese, but after he drains it out the way, we pour a whole keg of beer in the vat. So we're using Gate City Terminus Porter. We tried, I guess the trial and error process was using lots of different beers to see what would work. We wanted to choose a beer from Georgia. And I guess with our temperature, there's not a whole lot of breweries that were making a porter or a stout year round. And we got connected with Gate City and just really like those guys and like what they're doing. This is a Baltic ale style. So it's got these like really great coffee and chocolate aromas to it. And when they are pouring it in the vat, it's in this warm cheese room and it smells like a mochaccino. It's my favorite day of making cheese. And it just smells so incredible. And then we also, not only are the curds soaked in beer, but then we wash them rind twice throughout the aging process in that same Terminus porter. And then it's aged a minimum of 120 days. So it has to stay in our coolers for about 4 months before we are releasing it. So you can see it's got a lot firmer texture than our Thomasville Tome, but it's not hard like a cheddar. So we like to say that it's really versatile. You can pair it with a lot of wide-ranging options, but at the end of the day, we still want all of our cheeses. We say that they need to have kind of the fingerprint of our milk that would be grassy and earthy. And the interesting part about Griffin, I think, or there's many interesting parts, but one of the interesting things is that we are seeing the most growth and demand for it on the West Coast. And I think that that makes sense because if you think about the flavor, the palate, maybe Michael, you could speak to this a little bit better, of beer. You know, they're drinking beers that are a little bit more bitter and have a very different flavor profile. So it's interesting that, you know, that's the region of the country that has been most interested in Griffin. I really think that of all the cheeses that we make, this one is very charcuterie friendly. I think it's, you really can play up kind of those chocolate, coffee, grassy, earthy, buttery notes even so that come out of it. And I think it's been really fun. We don't make a ton of Griffin. We make maybe 1 or 2 batches a month. And so it's been really fun to kind of see it grow and all the different pairings that we've had over the last couple of years.
That's a fantastic cheese. I don't think there's a week that goes by we don't have a wheel of Griffin at the retail shop. We sell an immense amount of it. The just earthy tones that you get from that, we wanted to speak to on the earth notes to that. And so with this pairing, we saddled up some of our black pepper truffle pancetta. I just tore open a little 3-ounce pack of that. This is a really unique meat because it's got a really fun story. Just going back to the truffle and going back to speaking about the South, about 13 years ago now, I guess it would be 12. There's a truffle producer in Pecan truffles. She's producing, it's called True Truffle, TRU, and she started producing truffles. She put her spores in the ground in Georgia 11 years ago. She got her first harvest last December, I guess that would be, and not a huge harvest, but she still got them. And that, talk about commitment. That's something that you're putting spores in the ground. It takes up to 11 years, 10 years to get your first harvest. So we got, she cold pressed some oil and got her first harvest, and we were able to get some of that, and we used the truffle oil. We take black pepper toasted, and we take the belly, we rub it with the oil, and then finish it with a little bit of honey and black pepper, toasted black pepper on the outside, and then we cure it up and we let it cure for about 8 weeks, and that finishes that black pepper truffle. And so this is a belly that's been wrapped in that those wonderful flavors, and that paired with this Griffin is absolutely fantastic. If you're looking for a cooking preparation, it would make one solid grilled cheese. But just a really fun pairing for this specific tasting.
So Kevin, was this one of your first products that you made?
No, this actually came along much later. We were doing a pancetta already, and we were like, pancetta is such a fun, easy charcuterie to make because you have the whole belly. Typically, it's made, you can make it in just a whole piece of the belly. We make a Calabrian pancetta that is cut into three, take the belly and cut it into 3 pieces, and then we cover it in this beautiful Calabrian chili oil, and then roll it in the Calabrian chili flake. Using a method to cure something in all fat like that takes a lot of time and a lot of, it adheres to the flavor, because if you ever taken a stick of butter and stuck it in your refrigerator, Jessica, and it sort of takes on the flavor of everything that's in the fridge. So fat takes on that flavor really well. But one thing it doesn't take is salt. If you take a whole piece of, just a piece of fat and you put salt on it, it's not going to really adhere a lot of the salinity. So you have a lot of striations of that intermuscular fat in the belly that have to take on the flavor of those different truffles and black pepper. And that just takes a little bit of extra time. But this is a rolled pancetta. The black pepper truffle pancetta is a rolled, it's a rolled pancetta. So we take the whole belly, cut it into 2 pieces, and then we cure it in salt, and then we take those flavors and then we coat the whole thing and then we roll it. And then it's then cured and tied and then cured. But to answer your question, it wasn't one of the original pieces that we did. It was probably started about 6 years later.
Well, I have to say that, you know, when you're doing your blending, and I think that this goes with every product that you have, you sent me, I think I have 12 or 14 varieties on here and been using them through these classes and sessions. And what I find is that the spices and the mix that you have, they accent but not overwhelm the flavor of the meat. And I think that that takes a, like you said, you have chefs working on that, and you're working together to be able to create that. And this is a great example. Is I taste a little bit of truffle, I taste a little bit of the black pepper, but I don't lose the flavor of the meat. It's magnificent. It's just rich in that area. And
so,
then,
yeah, that's something that was really important to us in the beginning. And you know, if you look at the historical nature of charcuterie and the big countries that are making it, obviously in France and Italy and Spain, there are certain flavor profiles that, you know, you can't steal away from. And with the pork coming from the South and a lot of the makers of these great animals and creating these great flavors, we certainly didn't want to, you know, take over. You know, it's like when smoking, we could have picked mesquite or hickory. That sort of steals the flavor of the meats, and we chose pecan wood, number one, because it was indigenous to the state of Georgia, but it also had a very perfuming aspect. It didn't steal the flavor of the meat. And so, but same thing in the spices, trying to create stuff that wasn't just, it was a balance. And it's all over our web page, but something I talk about a lot in the flavor profiles is balance, having the nuances of trying to get the balance correctly hit with everything that we make is super important to us. But thank you for saying that, Michael.
one thing that I find so interesting is, you know, this rind is got such a beautiful earthiness, but it doesn't interfere with the paste. In other words, I'm not picking that that intensity of the smell, which is magnificent. But I think that a lot of people that are trying cheeses, you know, they do the sniff test and you get, oh, wow, that smells really strong. But the paste on here is just very, very pleasant. It has the reminiscence of the Thomasville Tome, which I just love. And when you put these two together, there's a lot of rich, big, bold flavors. I mean, I don't lose any of the Griffin. I don't lose any of the additional flavors of the meats. It comes together really well, but it's so rich. I mean, it's big. So when I was thinking about pairing with this, because I've had them both before, I thought I wanted to have something that could cut and has the strength to be able to stand up to it, but not interfere. But you need that, I guess, extra carbonation, but also that cleansing part about a pale ale. So, I went local for you guys and went with the SweetWater 420 extra pale ale. And it is a perfect match.
I bet. Now, Kevin, do you make the black truffle pancetta year round, or is it more of a seasonal?
No, we make it year round. So we keep, when we buy the true truffle oil, we try to get enough to, get us through. Things obviously have slowed down quite a bit, and she's got one harvest a year that keeps it slim. So we do from time to time have to paddle in some truffles from France, God willing, or from Italy rather.
Right.
It's we do our dead level best to try to procure, but making claims, as you know, on a label is something that takes a lot of hard work and energy and effort. But we stay true to the integrity of buying as much as we can locally. A lot of the peppers that we get to spice and season the salami, we get locally grown, and then we dehydrate those. But as you well know, there is a lot of times that won't suffice in the quantities you need. So we have to impart and share the grocery list with some other suppliers when need be.
Sure. And Michael, have you paired SweetWater with other truffle products as well? Is that something that kind of universally pairs, or is it just specific to this particular pairing?
Well, when I look at the pairings, they are all individuals. It wouldn't be based on one flavor or another. It's a accumulation. A lot of times when you're working with multiple products in pairing, you have to take in consideration about what they're going to have together. And when you put them together, how are they going to react? It's kind of like the first one where you really want to have that maltiness to it, but also you could be easily afraid that the maltiness might clash with fennel, but it doesn't. Fennel and the malt work really well together. Where here, you need more strength of cleansing because it is very rich. It's a good rich, not a, oh my God, I can only eat one piece. I've consumed about half the pack and just about half of the Griffin at this point. So it's not a problem that way, but the extra pale ale really helps clean the palate to really refresh it, and that's its job. Every beverage has a job, and I think that if you look at what you're going to use it for, I think that makes it a little bit more clear on how you're going to use that. And when you were talking about the West Coast buying more versions of it, living in Alaska and working with the West Coast producers in the beer industry at the time, I found that there was a lot of openness for them to be pairing with beer and surprisingly not as much wine when it came to a lot of the foods. And I think that when you grow up and you have access to wine every day and everybody has that and it's a California thing, and then you start getting these amazing beers, I think that kind of drives the direction that you see the West Coast in doing a lot of the innovation and beers and trickling across the country and everybody coming up against them. But when you think about a pale ale, Sierra Nevada is is what everybody strives for because that's what it is. And Nick Knock at SweetWater, he put a little spin on this with his, and it is a little more robust in that area, but with the fats and the butters and all that, it's perfect.
Nice. Our last cheese, we have Asher Blue. And Asher Blue is a raw milk, natural rind, non-homogenized blue cheese. So one of the hardest styles of cheese to make, and but it's definitely a labor of love. So I think every cheesemaker, just like every winemaker, every beer maker has, probably every charcuterie maker has a particular meat, cheese, beer, wine that they tasted, and it sparked some sort of curiosity or love that made them want to go into this career path, to dedicate themselves to understanding more. And for Jeremy, it was blue. He tried Roquefort for the first time, and then formed Bear and Stilton, and just fell in love. And so when we moved back to the farm, people told us, whatever you do, don't make blue. It's the hardest style to make. You're balancing culture and mold. There's so many other factors. And maybe because he's just that hard-headed, or because, you know, we said, if you're going to be a cheesemaker, make something that you love, and it will, it will shine through. Your passion will shine through. So Asher Blue is one that Jeremy has been making since 2005, and I know that because it is named after our second son, Asher, who was born in 2004. So this cheese, I think, has been a great vehicle to tell our story, to highlight our milk, to tell the story of our family. And, from a funny note, Asher loves to tease his brothers that he's famous, and they aren't, which is why we're starting to make more cheeses named after them. So Griffin, the one that we just tasted, is named after our third son. So we have a couple more to make. But I really love the Asher. It looks like it's going to be so much more intense than it is, and I think it's a lot more mild. You definitely get those white button mushrooms we talked a little bit earlier about, but I think that it really has been a great cheese in our portfolio. I love that we make a soft ripened, that we make aged and blue cheeses. It gives us a lot of opportunities for pairings and range, and it really is. We say that Asher Blue is going to be Jeremy's lifelong pursuit to learn, because he is constantly learning more and more about how to make blue cheese. And I think it's so different now than it was in 2005. And I look forward to tasting it in another 15 years and seeing where it's at. It's just constantly developing and getting better and better.
It is one of my favorite cheeses ever. We actually, like I mentioned, we wanted to partner with Jessica on doing something. And when I discovered that the innate fat content of blue cheese held a lot of the same value for making salami as pork fat. So it was, we probably didn't take as many hacks at it as Jeremy did to make the cheese. So we had to dial in the volume of cheese we put in the salami. But that was something that it just has the most incredibly rich umami. I mean, we can't keep it in stock. We are making so much of it now. In fact, I think we just got we're putting one whole wheel of blue in 100 pounds of pork. And it's working out wonderfully well. It was taking a little long to dry, but all that to be said, it is one of my favorites, and I'm so glad Jeremy nailed it. We decided to pair this with something that came down the path about 2 years ago for the Spotted Trotter. This is Sujuk salami, S-U-J-U-K. It is an Armenian style salami. You're like, Armenia. When you taste it and smell it, first you're like, Sujuk, I don't know what that is. Doesn't sound like anything I'm going to do, but you kind of dig a little deeper. This is one of my favorite salamis that we make. It's got beef and pork in it, or beef and lamb, I'm sorry. But it is just a beautiful, not over gamey. It's got sumac in it, which gives it that wonderful umber color, that red sort of burgundy color. And it's got toasted cumin, a little bit of caraway, but ultimately the flavor profile comes from the toasted cumin, a little bit of Aleppo pepper, but it's outstanding. We toast all the seeds, and we get the sumac locally, and we dehydrate it first, pulverize it into a powder, and that is a really special salami for us to make. And paired with that It's got a little bit of, I talked about the sugar earlier that had to be in the processing aspect of making salami. And instead of using dextrose or an inert sugar that didn't really have any flavor or body, we used brown sugar. It's got that little molasses note. So pairing that with this blue cheese is heaven. It's one of my favorites. There's a good acidic note to it. So the creaminess from the cheese that also has a certain amount of acidity qualifies for the complement. And I think it's just a delicious, delicious pairing. As far as what I would drink with this, I would say the richness and all, you need a rich cocktail. So I would probably do like a Vieux or maybe a Manhattan, stick to the bourbon and or some just really delicious rye. That to me is just something you can't beat. Typically, I'm going to eat and, dive into this pairing a lot as soon as September crisp air hits. This is one of my favorite things to put on the plate. But a delicious cheese to have in the house and pair with that salami is just, you just can't beat it.
Michael, I'm so sorry. I have to jump in because I had never tried Sujuk before. I didn't even know it existed. And you were the one, we were sitting at an IDF panel, with the placemat in front of us, and Sujuk was on there, and I think I almost fell out of my chair on the panel. It was so good, and I still remember to this day, it was paired with Miss Natural from Cypress Grove. And I thought that was incredible. And I loved, so when we have carried Sujuk in our cheese shop, and I've done events pairing it with Fresh Ev, and it was been so delicious. I've never once thought to put it with Asher Blue, but it makes complete sense. I don't know why I didn't put those two together, but yes, I will never forget that pairing. It was my, of all the things we had on the table, that was my favorite pairing of the day.
Jessica, how many times has Jeremy, how many iterations of Asher Blue have you guys made?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a tricky question there. You're getting into like Charlie Trotter territory here, where you would say like he never made the same dish twice. So that's a really good question. I would say that he is notorious for making little tweaks all the time, trying to get the end result that he wants. The last time that he did a pretty major overhaul was in 2018 or the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. He went over to France and went and studied specifically for blue cheese and was there for about 3 weeks and did a course and hung out with Yvonne Larcher and then spent a lot of time with Matteo up at Jasper and really kind of diving into Bailey and blue and trying to understand it. So we haven't done a major overhaul since then, but he's all the time. He's like a little tinkerer, always tweaking.
That's really cool. And the guys up at they were pretty open to have him there. I mean, I know
they have been amazing to us. So I mean, it's just so kind and sharing of information and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
It's funny that when we talk about the evolution of making cheeses and that process of getting things going and the aging and all the things that can go right and go wrong, the savior on bad cheese actually happens to be pigs. Yes. Because they'll eat all the bad cheese. So, Matteo was telling me is that they're fattening them up, during the building of the process of getting the cheese right, but better the pigs than us.
That's right. That's right, for sure.
Again, what Jessica said is that when we have done our sessions before, this is something that has always stuck out in my mind as being so unique in its flavor characteristic. And again, being Georgia-based, having the sumac in it. And I love the spiciness of it. I love the way that the Asher Blue comes in and brings in that creamy flavor, that little bit of saltiness, because you don't have the saltiness in the meat. And this adds that in. And I think it has a nice complement of each other. There's a little bit of cooling. So when I was thinking about being able to pair this, I made a last minute change. I was originally going to go a different direction, but it was actually a friend of ours, Lynn, out of California with Point Reyes. As I was working with her, and we were doing a pairing with her cheeses and Lagunitas. And she insisted that we do an IPA with the blue. And I'm like, okay. And it worked out magnificently. But here, you know, that was my first thought. It was like, okay, well, I'm just going to, you know, stick around there. And then I realized that I needed something a little bit more. I needed the little bit of maltiness. So I went with the Oskar Blues Goodnight, which is a Imperial Red IPA. And so I got the maltiness, I got the IPA, and it really brings in more butter out of the cheese. It cools down a little bit of the heat. So, you know, it gives a nice balance.
Yeah, I would probably fair to say like a Flemish red would be really outstanding with it. Something that had those just the rich maltiness and that fruit would be really delicious. Kind of tie it, bring it all together.
I wouldn't turn down a bourbon either. I think a bourbon would work really well with this, you know, just by itself and or, you know, in a mix, you know, a nice old fashioned.
Yep. Agreed.
You might have to try that September bourbon month.
You know,
those bourbons you're getting.
I know. I'm working on that. Every day I seem to, I try a little bit, something a little different to see where we're going with that. And I tried a bacon Gouda the other day with bourbon. And I think I have an addiction problem.
With the bourbon or the bacon Gouda?
I think both now.
I love it.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add, you know, say to everybody before we head off here?
Well, I want to, Kevin just like said something the other day that it made me so curious to know. You were saying that you just launched in the whole history of Spotted Trotter, you have not done e-commerce. Is that right?
That's correct.
Never. So what has that been like? How's your launch?
Well, we just put our first social media post out actually this morning. The site launched quietly yesterday or last week on Thursday. So it's been great. We've seen a little bit of movement. Now we all have, or not we all, but I had due in fact to coronavirus, we set up with Zifty for local delivery, but we just launched with 15 items on the site. Thank you for asking, Jessica, but it's going well. It's thespotted.trotter.com. And if you guys have an opportunity to get on Instagram and follow us at the Spotted Trotter, just make sure you put THE in front of it. But to answer your question, it's going quite well thus far, and we'll see. You know, everyone's asking, well, you're doing great with this, or you're not doing so good with this. What's going to happen after coronavirus? So we'll see. But thank you for asking.
I mean, but you already have a retail store, so you have a bunch of retail ready items already. So.
We do, yeah. And we tried to get stuff that would ship well, and obviously, you know, it's probably better than anybody the challenges with shipping and having, you know, to keep the products at a good temperature, especially during the trying times of July and August heat. Yes. So, you know, the shipping piece is something we're still trying to harness in and wrap up and put a pretty little bow on. So be patient with us if you're going to order from our new e-com site. We're getting the shipping dialed in. But thank you so much for mentioning it, Jessica.
Yeah, it's a steep learning curve.
It is. It is. You got to have a lot of space to have a lot of room to pack things and put in save time for space for box storage. Yes.
I will tell you one of my favorite stories of when Jeremy and I decided to move back to the farm. This is way back in 2002. I was still in college, and so I needed to finish the semester. So he decided to come back to Thomasville, and he lived with my parents, which is really funny. We weren't married yet or anything. And I stayed in Atlanta, and he, at that time living in Atlanta, I was getting cheese shipments to me. And then I was taking it around to chefs in Atlanta just to see if anybody was interested. And I would laugh so hard at some of the things that he would ship things in. It would be like boxes, they got deliveries of like paper towels and stuff.
Right.
And it would maybe be some like packing peanuts and some cheese just loose all in there with maybe some ice packs. And I'm telling you, steep learning curves.
Learn what's acceptable real quick.
Right. Like opening it up and there's like cheese everywhere, or, you know, but you know, good news, you just keep trying. And this day and age, I mean, I think we even personally buy a lot from other small producers that we are not able to, since we're not traveling anymore, we don't have, you know, Whole Foods close to us or anything. So we've been buying a lot and just seeing some really cool packaging that the producers are doing.
There's a lot of new, you know, environmentally friendly and, you know, just responsible shipping instruments for, you know, keeping things cold. And I think that's been very helpful. Not very inexpensive, but all the same, very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know that you do, which I don't normally see them, but like some fresh meats, like do you do some different sausages?
Yeah. We're a full-scale butcher shop in Atlanta. So if you guys are coming to Atlanta, please come see us. And obviously, if you're in Thomasville, don't hesitate to go down and see the Mecca that is Sweetgrass Dairy. I know you guys have a restaurant, and what else you got going on? You've got the retail shop.
We do, and we always, it's on the Noose, the never out of stock list, the black pepper sorghum. It's my very favorite. So yeah, our team knows they'll be in big trouble if we run out. So yes, please come to Thomasville when COVID is over and come and hang out with us in our cheese shop and eat some great cheeses and salamis. And thank you so much, Michael, for, you know, having us on and telling our stories. It's so fun to do like Georgia specific. Love it. And hopefully we can continue on helping to, you know, tell the stories of what's going on in the South. And there's so many exciting things happening. I know like you're purchasing a lot of different ingredients from different growers and farmers and purveyors, and it's an exciting time in the South, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's a lot happening, and you know, sans coronavirus, I think there's a lot to look forward to. You know, I know that there were some new breweries opening, some one or two new distilleries in the Southeast, and still just folks that had got started. You know, look, distilleries, guys making beer and spirits, that's a lifelong endeavor, and it's something that, you know, in Japan they'll spend 40 years learning how to make a noodle correctly, for God's sakes. And it's like we're just dipping our toe into this in the southeastern United States, and so a lot to be excited about in that regard, Jessica. And I think it's a very exciting time to be working in food, definitely.
For sure. What, do you have anything new coming out? Are you doing any R&D?
We do. We just launched a mustard truffle salami. It's whole mustard seeds that we plump, and then they get imparted, and I would say impregnated might be a tough word, but we mix and blend the salami in with black truffles, peelings, and whole mustard seeds, and I think we've nailed it. It's been like Jeremy, we've probably been walking through this one about 2 or 3 months. But I think we got it down, and it's delicious. The sweetness from the mustard seeds and the spiciness from them. It's a non-muddled flavor. They're very succinct and work very well together. But how about you guys? Your cheeses, are you guys linking out to do anything new anytime soon?
Well, I don't know if you saw it, but we have been working on the last 18 months of rebrand. So This is my second time sharing it. I was on the slides, but you can see like our new logo. And we're really, really excited about that. It makes sense. We're moving. We were supposed to be in our new production facility in April, but you know, the world ended. So it is now slated for the end of September, beginning of October. So in our 20th year, we are able to celebrate a new production facility and our new branding. And really looking forward to, just like you said, I think you got into your new space and there were so many opportunities. You had space to move and just really we look forward to launching some new products over the next couple of years. So long time coming.
Are you guys you're not in there operating quite yet? Okay, gotcha.
No, we were supposed to be, but you know, just, we were getting a lot of equipment from overseas, and it sat on barges in the ocean for a lot longer than we thought. So, you know, just you got to be adaptable in today's.
You gotta learn to pivot. Yep.
Right. So, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But right now, we're really just bursting at the seams and just kind of sticking to our tried and true. But I will tell you, doing a rebrand in COVID has been a good thing, I think, because I don't know about you, and Michael, you've been in specialty food for a long time, but I think anytime there's change, people have been, there's like just fear of the unknown and something new. So I remember all of these other creameries over the years and specialty producers going through a rebrand, and a lot of times people's first reaction was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. And I think for us, a lot of the feedback that we're getting, I think because we are in a situation right now that does feel kind of fearful in the unknown, and we hear a lot of bad news all the time, that the rebrand has gone off as like good news. So everything has been just so positive. And we even went back in earlier this year, we're like, should we even do this? And they're like, oh my gosh, we've already spent so much money and effort and research and time. Like, we got to keep on going. You know, we have a vision, we're going to keep on going. And it, I think, has been received so incredibly, so much more positively than even I was expecting. So I guess that's something good news.
When you have a track record of 20 years of making incredible cheese, Jessica, I'm sure you as well as anybody know that you got to start relying on. I saw some of the pundits, or not pundits, I would say, but more so the concerned citizens of cheese. They're like, are you going to rebrand the cow? Is the cow going away? And you get folks that are really, you know, it's like you have to trust that they know that you'll do a good job of it. They've trusted you this long, so give us the credit where credit is due. But very excited for you. I think it looks beautiful. You guys have done a great job. Was it somebody locally that did it for you, or they?
No, so I was so fortunate to be able to do the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, and I was able to meet someone through that program. And so this company we worked with is called 6 Point Creative, and they're actually out of Massachusetts. So it was really great. But I will tell you, I don't have our old logo, but people with the cow, they used to think it was a goat all the time because it's a cow eating grass. So it kind of looks like the beard of a goat. I don't think anyone is going to confuse that for a goat. I feel really good about that.
Looks great. Very clean. I think it's timeless, classic. It looks wonderful.
So thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have to ask, I don't know if you see in the comments, but Sweet John Reed is on, and he wants to know, Kevin, there's no beef, lamb, Sujuk, or Georgia Blue salami on the website. So when are you gonna?
We need to make that happen. I will get that done today.
Chop chop.
We will make it happen. And the those rotating packs, guys, these are new for us. They're 5 months of shelf life. They're matte packs or modified atmosphere packaging. So they're and they can get shipped. There's not a lot of, they're cured items, so people get very concerned when they're room temperature, but they're not, they don't have to be chilled. They do not have to be cold when they're shipped. So just be conscientious of that. We will be shipping with cold packs to maintain the integrity of the product, but just so you know that if you do buy something online, it doesn't have to be ice cold when it arrives. In fact, charcuterie is best served at room temperature. You want to see a little bit of sweat, but to store it is fine in the refrigerator. So just as a caveat for folks that are going to be interested in shipping, know that we will ship out weekly, and we try to make sure that we ship it to you before the craziness of Friday.
Well, I have to say, I love you guys. I miss you so much. I wish we were able to come together and to do more things, locally, but this worked out really well. I'm really happy with the pairings that we did today, and hopefully everybody enjoyed your stories and learning a little bit more about what you guys do. And I've been impressed with you guys since the day I met you. So, I just want everybody else to love you as much as I do.
Oh, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you guys for coming out and playing today on a Friday. And I enjoyed every single moment. I hope everybody else did. This will be posted up on my YouTube channel in the next couple of days, Michael Landis Cheese. And we can order more and taste along with us next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Great to see you guys. Love you guys. Bye, Jessica.
All right. We'll see you guys soon. You guys all take care. All
We'll
right.
break bread together soon.
That's right.
Absolutely. All
See you
right.
guys.